Also in Evansville, a huge crowd showed up for the 12th annual Gumbo Cook Off hosted by the Franklin Street Events Association. The event takes place on Franklin and some of the surrounding streets. It's a fundraiser for local nonprofits. This year, they had a rinse and repeat theme. Organizers brought out mugs from past years for those who didn't have a mug already or for those who wanted to complete their collections. One person representing St. Jude Children's Hospital says he was glad to support a good cause. Gumbo judges included Evansville Mayor Stephanie Terry, University of Southern Indiana President Steve Bridges, and Old National Bank Manager of Physical Security Eric Williams. A People's Choice winner was also picked based on the number of tips their booth